All right, Kevin, this is Mark, not Square Design, and I'm just going to kind of run you through this instead of have you watch that whole long video. Um, I haven't been out there yet, of course, because I'd really like to talk to you and get that letter sent off to the city. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk tomorrow. Before I go to bed at night, just want to run through this with you. Um, there is the plan that some stuff you guys, I'm guessing this is all the information that was turned in for the original permit. So what I've been able to glean from this is that we've got the desire to use Bigfoot footings. Those will have to be at 42-inch depth, and then a 4x8 beam is what this is. It says it is. Now I have to size that to see if that's appropriate, but it'd probably be okay because we only have 12 foot, which means there's only 6 foot of there's only 6 foot of uh, tributary placed on it because you have only half, because half goes to this side and the other half goes to this side. But we have another condition here. The existing building, if it is up on those little concrete blocks and they're just sitting on the pavement, they're not down at frost depth, then we probably have to make this structure independent structurally from this, connected, but what's called a soft connection. So just kind of want to cover that real quick so that you understand my drawing. So this is the existing building as I've got it so far. And then this is the new building. And there's things we have to consider. So because that other sheets are 2x12s, this distance is 11 and a quarter inch. So it's a true 2x12 and nominal lumber. And then there's the 2x8. And then this is the ground. This line right there, that's the ground. Because in 2018, the code stated that this distance had to be 12 inches minimum, clear of dirt. So, um, if let's just say I've got this drawn wrong, so let's put it where it should be, which is down probably somewhere near the base of your 2x12s per the pictures that are shown. So I'll move that right now. Let me trim these back and then move this guy from there down to here. So that's probably about where grade is. So you'd have to excavate out this area, and then what would probably happen is we'd have to put an independent wall in here and to set this floor joist on, and that meaning this portion, that boy right there. Now, can I span the whole thing? I don't know. I need to size it, but I might be able to span the whole thing and don't need the 2x8, or I need to put in a glue lamp, or we need to find a bigger timber. I don't know yet, but that's pretty straightforward. And I can run some tests for you so you can make a decision on what you prefer. So when I get to how this thing's put together, there's one other thing that we have to consider, and that is back, I think, the best I can determine is that this original place was built in around 2002, so 2002, and so most likely they went with minimum OSB 7/16 sheathing, and then most lap siding ends up being about 1 inch. And that's all that this represents. Then there's a 2x6 wall with insulation in it. And then I put a bird's mouth cut because you would describe that there is a vaulted, probably frame on site type system going on in here, but I'll know more of that when I get out there. So this is kind of how I imagine that it looks. So the big deal is the new. So when we get to the new, we have got to follow the codes from the 2021 application of the IECC, or the International Energy Conservation Code. And I think I wrote that to you in the previous email, but in the event I did not, find it and drag it across so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now let me pause. So for the sake of an easier search and have more control, I copy the codes as I need them into OneNote. And so this yellow section, we are in climate zone 6. Here, let me turn on my highlighter. There we go. So we're in climate zone 6 up here at the top. And then what we're looking at is your roof's insulation entirely above the roof deck. So in a vaulted area, I need to be at an R30 CI. CI stands for continuous insulation. So like a rigid foam or a mineral wool would have to be placed over the rafters under the roofing. If we're doing an attic above the addition, I will need R49. And then we have what's called the International Existing Building Code, this IEBC. So that gives you a whole bunch of leniency as to what you need to do with the existing building. Sorry. So don't think that we have to, up all of your insulation. Just all the new stuff we have to do. So the wood framed, this is where it kind of gets a little bit different. So at the wood frame portion, we have to do an R13 in the cavity, which is between the studs, plus an R7.5 continuous insulation, which is about 4.3 per inch, so it's 2 inches. Or we need to do an R20, which there is for 2x6s. There is an R21 insulation. R19 cannot be put in 2x6 walls, and it says it right on the bag for 2x6 walls at 6.25 inches deep, and studs are 5.5. So don't let that fool you. So we can do an R21. It's just a high density fiberglass, and then put one layer of continuous insulation on the outside and meet this code. So what I'm talking about there is when we look at your floor plan, it's the junction of the two buildings. So if I am correct, and there's the requirement of 7/16 inch sheathing, that is where that's located, outside your stud. So this 5.5 inches here. And then on your existing building, there's about 1 inch, underneath the vapor barrier, if they put one up. Probably just a Tyvek, or hopefully not worse, type of house wrap that's covering your sheathing, and then they put on the lap siding, which by the time you get to the bottom of the lap where it sticks out the most is about 1 inch typically. So on your new building, we have our R21, let's say, and then if I look at this, I've got a distance here of 2 inches. So I'm going for that 3.8 CI, or I can increase this to 4 inches out in there, 4, and then we just put the bats and the siding on that. And let me show you what that looks like. So this is one of my standard details, and I'm using mineral wool in this case. We can use blue board foam. Mineral wool is just a lot more environmentally friendly. If we can source rock wool, which I may now have a source for that, which I was having trouble, but I have to follow up on that before I can make that a reality. Then what you're seeing here is you're seeing the drywall, and then the stud, and then the insulation that's in the cavity in between each stud bay. And then you're seeing the plywood that gives us the shear value. So this is a nailing pattern to each stud, so they can't rack like a stack of, when you're stacking cards. And so that nailing pattern is pretty important there. That's why it has to be back here and directly in contact with the stud. Then your continuous insulation is here. And in the one I've drawn for you so far, it's one layer, or we can go 2 layers of 1 inch, as it allows you to overlap the seams. It's such a small building, it probably doesn't make much of a difference, but it will make some because it obviously just stops what's called air leakage, and that is it's actually more important than insulation itself. And then at each stud location, so right here in a line, there's a screws going very deep in through and in a line with each stud. And I can see my details drawn a little wrong. I took that out of perspective. And they're straight above each one, but hopefully you understand the image that this one is attached to this stud, this is attached to this attached to this. And they go all the way up. So you just start these, and then you start tucking this behind it, and then you screw them all down. And then that gives you your nailing surface to apply your lap siding. Here we have a blown in or batt insulation that goes out to the rim joist. And then we have a rigid foam insulation here, or we can use Rockwool Comfort Board 80 if I can locate it and get it at a comfortable price. So we'll get into that a little further down the road, but we should probably at least talk about it enough so that my drawings are reflective of what we're doing and redo them. So hopefully this layering system, if you have to hit pause, please do if you have questions for me when we talk. That is what's going on here. And let me just pull it over to the side a little. And then bring this in so you can see it. So that blue line is this stuff you're siding. This yellow is 3/4 inch, 1x4. Then I've got one of these 2 layers of continuous insulation, whether that be mineral wool, my preferred, or blue board, or foam insulation, Fomular or something like that. Owens Corning now makes mineral wool, but it can't be buried. So if I can't source rock wool, we can still use mineral wool, but we have to switch to blue board when we go down into the grade. And so that is something else that is here. And that's a little bit more difficult to explain without the detail, but I'll try and pull it up. So below grade, a below grade wall needs to be an R10. But we're not dealing with a basement. We're dealing with, and this is one thing I want to talk to you about at one point, is do we want to do this new addition as a slab and bring in some engineer fill to get it up to the same height as the old? It's a cost analysis thing to see what is best. Otherwise, we need an R38 in your joists, and then going down along the insulation for 24 inches of depth, we need to have an R20, and blue board 2 inches about R10. So we would need to go with 2 layers to get that R20 to go 20 inches down. And just be glad it's not residential, because then you have to go 48. So that's, I guess, kind of the gist of where I am at with this at this point in time. And I've got a letter started to make a request to Butte Silver Bow. And so there's the beginnings of it. And I just want to ask you some questions so I don't word anything in here that's not accurate. And so I'm drafting up the drawings, as you're seeing, and I might attach. Not, I probably won't. I probably won't attach any sketches. I'd have to look through them and see if there's anything that was really appropriate to bring into the meeting. But other than that, it's been 15 minutes, so I'm going to get off here so you don't have to watch a super long recording. And we shall talk tomorrow. Talk to you then. Have a good night, Kevin.